welcome to the June Ordinary Council meeting. Item 1, acknowledgement. We, Greater Shepparton City Council, acknowledge the Yorta Yorta peoples of the land which now comprise Greater Shepparton. We pay our respect to their tribal elders, we celebrate their continuing culture, and we acknowledge the memory of their ancestors. Item 2, privacy notice. This public meeting is being streamed live via our Facebook page and made available for public access on our website along with the official minutes of this meeting. All care is taken to maintain your privacy. However, as a visitor in the public gallery, it is assumed that your consent is given in the event that your image is broadcast to the public. It is also assumed that your consent is given to the use and disclosure of any information that you share at the meeting, including personal or sensitive information, to any person that accesses those recordings or minutes. And we do welcome members in the gallery this afternoon. Item 3, governance principles. Council considers that the recommendations contained in this agenda gives effect to the overarching governance principles stated in section 9.2 Local Government Act 2020, and these principles are as followed. Councillors, they're listed 1 to 9 on page 5 of the agenda. Turn the page to page 6, item 4, apologies nil received. Item 5, declarations of conflict of interest. Councillors, do we have any conflicts this afternoon? No. Item 6, confirmation of minutes of previous meeting. Councillors, are any of the minutes of the previous meeting opposed? There is a recommendation. Can I have a councillor put that forward as a motion? Councillor Adam.
Thank you, Mayor Sali. I move the motion that the minutes of the 28th of May 2024 council meeting as circulated be confirmed.
Thank you. Can I have someone second that, please? Councillor Brophy.
I second the motion.
Councillors, all in favour? Motion carried. Item 7, public question time, nil received. Item 8, deputations and petitions, nil received. We go over the page to page 7. Item 9.1, contracts awarded under delegation, May 2024. There is a recommendation. Can I please have a councillor put that forward as a motion? Councillor Dobson.
Mayor Sali, I'll move that the council note the contracts awarded under delegation pursuant to a formal tender process for the reporting period, and 2, note the request for tender advertised but not yet awarded.
Councillor Dobson. Councillor, second that motion, please. Councillor Brophy.
I second that motion.
Councillor Dobson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Sali. The major one I think needs some explanation. That is contract 2370, provision of secretariat, lobbying and advocacy services for the regional cities of Victoria. Regional cities of Victoria consists of 10 of the major cities right throughout Victoria, and we and Greater Shepparton is part of it. In fact, and on that basis, because our mayor is the chair of regional cities, it is our job to tender for the provision of these services. The figure of $976,800, that's over a 4-year period, and a 3-year period, and that's divided amongst the 10 cities that's in regional cities Victoria. And so the figure of 976,000, really, what does it mean for Shepparton? Our proportion over a 3-year period is $32,560 per year. So whilst it looks a big figure, when you break it down, we're only doing the work for it. Really, we're not paying that whole amount of money. And by the way, that $900,000 is paid over the 3-year period, not all in one hit. So there's a bit there. The major culverts, it's good to see we're out and about. The major culvert in the Merrigum Ardmona Road, Merrigum, that's being renewed. A lot of money, $652,000, but road maintenance is very expensive these days. Council plan development 2025 to 2029. This is an important part of the process of council going forward. Of course, we're nearly into the end of this 4-year period, which this cohort of councillors is in, and the next council plan will be over that 4-year period. The Customer Experience Project lump sum contract of $132,000. I'd like to see in future, Mayor Sali, that a lot of that work can be done in-house, and so we can actually try and get that as a lesser figure at this stage. The $132,000 is okay. There's a number of tenders that have been advertised but not yet awarded, and the one that's interesting to me as chair of the regional regional sale yards advisory group is that we've put out for tender an expression of interest for a commercial lease over the sale yards. The sale yards was originally put together by the then Shire of Shepparton, and the Shire of Shepparton was hugely an agricultural farming sector within the community. and we inherited this when the amalgamation happened many years ago. Some would question the fact that whether or not local government should be in the animal selling business. And I too would question that, whether it's our core business, and in fact, could private enterprise or another conglomerate do a better job or be a more efficient job than council? I'm of the view that the best deal here would be to lease it out. Of course, we still have got that very big roof expanse over the stadiums, which I hope over the years to come we will see solar power coming off that roof. Provision of asphalt servicing and associated works. This is pretty typical of road works we've got to do. Drummond Road drainage construction, the Margaret Street stormwater in Tatura, the Orvale Road and Poplar Avenue roundabout, and of course the last one is provision of cleaning services. They're all out for tender, and we'll await when all that comes in. Mayor Sali, that's about it. Fairly stock standard, but an interesting agenda item all the same.
Very good, thank you, Councillor Dobson. Councillor Brophy, did you want to talk to the motion?
There's probably not much else to say after Councillor Dobson's covered that so beautifully. Just reiterating that bigger item is a little bit out of whack. We don't normally see that in our particular contracts awarded under delegation, and as Councillor Dobson pointed out, it's really money going in, money going out in terms of taking that. I think the Treasury is held by a different council again, and we're doing the administration, and I think it's very important that we've got our mayor that is the chair of Regional Cities Victoria. So really, in actual fact, what we're paying is pretty much 10% of what you see there.
Good. Thank you, Councillor Brophy. Any councillors like to speak against the motion? Any councillors like to speak for the motion? Councillor James.
Thank you, Mayor Sally. One very important, they're all important of course, but as Councillor Dobson said, the contract number 2358, the construction of Orvale Road and Poplar Avenue roundabout Orvale, that is extremely important for residents within that area, particularly the primary school. Is probably one of the most dangerous intersections in Shepparton, I believe. Having travelled on that road several times, it is a danger spot in the morning in regards to sun. So I'm very pleased to see that tender has been closed and it's obviously been started, and I don't know when the start time is, but I'm very pleased to see that's in and that work will get on board with that immediately, because that is a very extremely dangerous intersection. So I'm pleased to see that's in and work will be started soon.
Sorry, just point of clarification, that is out for tender and hasn't been awarded yet. So absolutely agree that it needs to be done, but it has to finish the tender process first.
Good. Any other councillors like to speak to the motion? Councillor Adam.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Sally. I won't go over all the points that the other councillors raised. I'd just like to draw attention to the fact that we're getting back to what I'd like to see, which is attending all these roadwork and associated works. We've got so many, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different items on that page, all aimed at construction of Orvale Road, as Councillor James just mentioned, Margaret Street stormwater pump station, electrical upgrade. These are all, I suppose, they're not sexy subjects. They don't make papers all the time, but this is our core business. This is what we're doing. And I want the community to know that our money is being spent in the right areas. And these things, some of these things have been waiting for quite a while to get on the active page. They're there now, so I'm hoping these contracts will be awarded, and we're doing our job.
Very good, thank you. Councillors that would like to speak to the motion? I'll just obviously expand a little bit more around the regional cities component, but other than the fact of what's already been highlighted regarding the financial aspect, and that's obviously been articulated by my fellow councillors, but just to acknowledge the work that CEO Fiona Legassic and the procurement team, that I do apologise that when getting elected to the chair that I wasn't aware that we would have to undertake this contract process, and the mayors who make up the other regional cities decided to go through a bit of an EOY process, although they acknowledged it and thought that it would be a very informal process because of the amount of the contract we had to undertake it through our procurement process. So I acknowledge the procurement team that worked above and beyond to have a very thorough process undertaken, and obviously glad that this has all been resolved now, and looking forward to continuing our working relationship with CPR Group, and yeah, so I think Fiona and obviously the procurement team that have done the work, and yes, again, echo the comments that have been made around the financial component that yes, this is just simply a note in an administrative step, and clearly that amount is broken up amongst all 10 councils over a period of 3 years. So if there's nothing else, any closing comments, Councillor Dobson?
Thank you, Mayor Sally.
Very good, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, we go to page 11 of the agenda, item 9.2, May 2024 monthly financial report. There is a recommendation. Can I have a councillor put that forward as a motion?
Thank you, Mayor Sally. I'll move that the council note the May 2024 monthly financial report as attached.
Can I have a councillor second that motion, please? Councillor Summer. Councillor Dobson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, it's a pretty comprehensive report again, and there's various, there's 2 or 3 aspects I'd just like to highlight, Mayor Sally again, and others can talk on other things, but as at May 24, 17% of the rates are still outstanding, and that's about normal, I think, for this time of the year. We've got 35,000 rates assessments go out each year, so it's a lot of people to get around to make sure that they do, and of course a number of our ratepayers are on the 4 times a year payment scheme. I'm being one of them, and I can tell you it's a good way to budget. So I tell anybody who's getting their rates notice, please look at that. The cash and financial assets, we're in the $44 million in both of those as good assets, current assets. And with our money that's being invested, we're now getting 4.79% interest. That's a little bit above what you can get, I think. So I congratulate our finance team for getting every single dollar. I mean, it was when we first started here 4 years ago, or 3.5 years ago, we're getting 0.4% rather than 4.79. So it's good. That's brought in $1.6 million this year in interest, and I think that's terrific. It's a bit of a bonus, really, when you think about it. The CapEx, capital expenditure, 69% of a total of a 90% target, and there's probably some good reasons for that across the board. And without highlighting too many, I just looked at, if I can bring it up here, bridges is down, buildings is less, computer and telecommunications has decreased, drainage is less, footpaths and cycleways, parks, open spaces and streetscaping, plant machinery, etc., recreation, leisure and community facilities. I think what that's telling us is that we're either looking forward to putting some of this capital expenditure onto next year's, but at the same time I think it's also highlighting the fact that as a council we've got to be fairly conservative in our approach. I read the other day that in fact a good proportion of councils in Victoria, in fact in regional and country Victoria, most of them are running at a deficit at the moment. Very few are running at a surplus. So we highlighted this back in 2020 when we first all got in. We said we've got to be careful because COVID was just coming in, and of course then we had the 2022 floods. Combined with that, we gave 2 years of nil increase in rates, and I think that's probably now coming back to not bite us, but certainly we're going to have to look at that, and we're now at 2.75% in the budget going forward. 2 things, Mayor Sally, that really I'm sorry to see, and employee costs have gone down. Early childhood is down by $820K, and paternal and child health care is down by $770, and those decreases in payments are due to vacancies, and we can't fill them. And I really feel that that's an area that, you know, we can't do much about it except try and promote it, but it's one that's highlighted to me. Mayor Sally, there's a lot more about it. It's a pretty comprehensive report, and I thank the Finance Department for doing their best each year.
Councillor Dobson.
Each month, I should say.
Would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Sarli. Just councillors have been watching the operating position fairly closely because of hefty deficit. So it's really nice to see here that once you remove the federal financial assistance grants, the projected full year's deficit is only 0.02 million, which is amazing. So the public watching would be forgiven to be very confused about how we got to that. but some councillors still continue to be quite confused about how we got to that. But if you remove quite a large grant, which is financial assistance from the government, it does work out that we have a low deficit. It's just that we were paid that early. We're not quite reaching our 100% mark with capital works, which is not uncommon. We're going to reach about 79% of the projected full year forecast. And a lot of that is to do with some projects that are listed here. It doesn't mean that they've fallen off the radar. It just means that we've re-budgeted for them to go into next year's budget for many and varied reasons. And one of those, for just community knowledge, is the bike jump investigation and design, which we did put 200,000 into the budget for that. But for one reason or another, it could not be delivered. It will be delivered in the following financial year, and I'm very excited about that because consultation began about 5 years ago. So hopefully we can make an announcement soon. Watch this space. Yes, but it all looks like we're in a pretty healthy position compared to where we were before. So well done to the staff and the management of the finance team.
Great, Councillor Summer. Any councillors like to speak against the motion? Any councillors like to speak for the motion? Any closing comments, Councillor Dawson?
All been said. Thank you, Mayor Saley.
Very good. We'll now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, we go over the page 15 of the agenda, item not.
Mayor Saley, can I just ask a point of clarification? And I apologise that it's quite administrative and I'm just looking at it right now, but should we be passing or moving the revenue and rating plan before the budget so that we can decide the differential?
So that's the item afterwards.
The order matter?
Okay, we'll go to the revenue and rating plan and then we'll come back. Yep.
Good pick up.
Okay, councillors, we'll go over a few more pages to page 25 of the agenda, item 9.4, revenue and rating plan. There is a recommendation there in front of us. Can other councillor please put that forward as a motion?
Yeah, okay. Thank you. I'd like to move that the council adopt the revised 2021 to 2025 revenue and rating plan as attached.
Very good. Can other councillor second that motion? Second for Adam. Mayor Saley. Councillor Spinks, would you like to speak to the motion?
Sure. Just for clarification, I wasn't suggesting that because I wanted to move it, but because it just makes more sense. So the revenue and rating plan being revised, the main reason that this has come back to us, because it is something that you normally would only see once within your 4-year council term, but at the start of our council term, we did introduce a new rating differential, the derelict rating rates charge. And at the time, I think there was clear intent and it was seen as a lever to achieve an outcome to try to manage properties that had become aesthetically detrimental to our community. But the reality of how it worked is that we caught all the wrong fish in the net. And I've said this almost all the way along. And essentially this derelict land differential is charging at 360% of the charge, way above the regular charges of the other differentials, and is catching people who, for example, there's only a handful that have been caught in it, mostly residential properties, not commercial, and who then, a couple of them themselves who are actually on payment plans because they're struggling with their rates as it is, let alone being lumped with this increased hardship. The reality is that the people who, especially within the residential component, the people that are being hit with these charges often have properties that are in a certain state because of reasons that are much greater than financial, and it may be to do with mental health or various other health circumstances, various other circumstances that would be impacting their ability to maintain their property, and charging them more money is not the way that we support these community members. Ultimately, this derelict land charge, this derelict differential charge, was intended for a purpose that it ultimately did not meet in a meaningful way. And I think we have a responsibility to remove it, to return it back to just having the 3 charges that we have had previously. It is up to each individual council how many charges they do have. It is within our purview to be able to have this 4th charge, but I strongly argue that it causes more harm than any type of good it could ever achieve. And so this revenue and rating plan that's put before us aims to remove that charge, which I think within our 4-year council term sees us put it into place. We tried it. We acknowledged that it did not work in the way that we intended for it to, and now we're removing it to try and support those very small number of people that we have impacted by it. And I wholeheartedly support the fact that we are revising this plan in the end of our council term. It will again be revised by the new council term, but this I think is an important closing loop of the circle that we must do to best serve our community. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Councillor Spinks. Councillor Adam, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Sally. Very briefly, I just want to congratulate Councillor Spinks for the pickup, the agenda items and her explanation of the derelict rating component. I just want to just bring to the attention of everyone, yes, there's been minor changes. This is a process we go through every now and again, but the community needs to know that that a change of rating differential does not influence the total rates levied. So ultimately, it didn't influence the end number. It's just a change in who pays what, and depending on the different types of property owned. So this is not a cash grab or anything like that. I want to make that clear. It's just a reorganisation or recalibration of the different components that makes up the rates charges.
Very good, thank you, Councillor Adam. Are there any councillors that would like to speak against the motion? Any councillors like to speak for the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Sally. Just picking up certainly what Councillor Spinks put forward, and she's absolutely right. The intention there was to really catch some big fish and some properties that had been left to absolutely go to rack and ruin, and really aesthetically bring down what the town should be looking like. But caught in that were a number of residents, and whether it be for social or emotional reasons or mental health reasons, it highlighted certainly to us that there are some properties out there and some residents out there who need an awful lot of support, and they need some support in different ways. I would have been happy to have left it in there for, or have it maybe interpreted different or assessed different or even reworded different, maybe to just include commercial instead of residential or something like that. But happy to progress at this stage, and we'll see where that goes, obviously in a new council term.
Very good, thank you, Councillor Brook. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak on the motion? Closing comments? Summer?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'll just reiterate all that. We did cast a very large net. We only got about 6 properties, and none of those had any significant impact on the municipality as a whole. It's likely some of that had to do with hoarding, and anybody with basic understanding of mental illness would realise that penalising that behaviour will not fix anything. In fact, it'll probably make those situations worse. I'm quite relieved we're considering removing the charge, and hopefully everybody feels the same way. I will also say that this was our opportunity to review, reduce or even scrap the municipal charge, but there was no appetite to do so, and that is that's evident once we discuss the budget. So municipal charge, in my opinion, does only benefit the top end of town because it doesn't actually increase the amount we collect. It simply redistributes the rating burden on lower paying properties, which I've consistently argued. That $6.5 million or $195 per property that we may or may not collect would significantly boost our local economy. Could go towards children's recreation, groceries, or any other number of things that people are struggling to afford with the cost of living. But I am comfortable that all councillors now do understand the purpose and function of the municipal charge. All councillors had intelligent debate about how this may impact differentials, particularly for farming and commercial properties. And this is on top of the land tax where people are struggling to pay from the state government. So I completely respect the opinion. I just am grateful that everybody's given it some considered thought, which is all I can ask. So I thank councillors for their due diligence, and I will be voting in support regardless of the municipal charge remaining in there.
No, very good, Councillor Summer. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? Any closing comments, Councillor Spinks?
Just to thank the additional comments that were provided, that point around it not impacting the total amount that is collected is really important, and also to just note that it is just 6 properties. The average ratepayer will not feel any difference in theirs. It is just about these 6 that we are impacting, and most importantly the 5 residential, and being able to support them better. So thank you.
Okay, councillors, we will now go to vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, we go back to item 9.3, which is the 2024-2025 budget. There is a recommendation there over 3 pages, and I'll ask a councillor to put that forward as a motion, please. Councillor Dobson.
Well, in the absence of anybody else, well, Shane, Mayor Sally, I'll do this. That's the most important
I was going to say,
item for the whole year.
a small item.
With your indulgence, I'm not going to read out the whole recommendation because it goes over a number of pages, 1, 2, 3, and I think it's a 4th. But it's in the agenda, and those who are interested will see it. But certainly, I'll move that the council adopt the 2024-25 budget as presented.
Good, thank you, councillor Dobson. Can I have a councillor second that motion? Councillor Abdullah.
Motion.
Oh, councillor Adam. Yeah, whatever.
You were not looking at
I look, but you verbally got him.
I'll defer to councillor.
Good. Councillor Abdullah.
Thank you. Yes, I'll second the motion.
Councillor Dobson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Well, the first thing I'd do is congratulate whoever put this document together, because I've got 2 lovely photographs of the Australian Botanic Gardens Shepparton on the front cover, and it's one of Shepparton, Greater Shepparton's primary tourist attractions. So I encourage everybody to get out there, and hello to all those members. In saying that, on a more serious note, the document tells us that over $94 million, excluding GST, will be lawfully raised as a consequence of this resolution. But when you break it down, the general rate is about 76,000, and waste service charges takes up a big chunk of that, a bit over $12 million. So there is a bit going on. I don't intend, Mayor Sally, to go on too much about it, except to say that again, as I said in the previous agenda item, that this budget really is a conservative budget. We're working hard to go against the trend of certainly regional councils in providing deficits each and every year. Others will talk about how we are bringing the deficit down, and I hope somebody does bring that up, and I'll leave that to others to do it. Again, the 2 years of 0 rate rises where we indemnified about the community of Greater Shepparton by not increasing the rates. We're certainly now paying for that. It added about $1 million per year, and then if you capitalise that, it certainly works out over a 10-year period. But in reading the budget, it tells me a number of things. It's suggesting to me that we're looking at efficiencies within the organisation, and I think that's a number 1 priority. And I think everybody who runs a business this size will be looking at efficiencies. We'll be looking at waste watching. That is making sure that every dollar that's spent is in fact a proper amount spent, and there's no waste attached to it. And we're going to have a conservative approach to our expenses, that we're going to question all the money that's to be going out, because we need to get that budget back in to a surplus as soon as possible. It does say that, I think, and others will go on, but I won't take up too much more time because others might want to talk about it. But it does talk about a reduced deficit, so I thank the community for that.
Very good, thank you, councillor Dobson. Councillor Abdullah, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you. And I'll just read through some of the notes because there are certain points that I want to capture, and I hope that I get the message across to the community. And Councillor Dobson, you ended with the figure of with the deficit figure, that yes, it's a deficit this year. But I just want to say that when you look at the budget, all the figures are there, all the facts are there. But if you look at the trend for the last 4 years for this council term, the trend is positive. We are on the right track. This council inherited a budget with the adjusted operating deficit of $17.95 million in 2020. And throughout the last 4 years, that trend has actually improved, except for 1 year in 2022 when the budget deficit, this underlying deficit was $20.95 million. But in the remaining years, we have actually covered from $16.7 million in 2021 to $6.85 million in 2024. So this is a positive trend, although we do have many challenges ahead. And I'll quickly focus on some of the key challenges for the council in preparing this budget. Financial sustainability. The council faces ongoing challenges with financial sustainability as costs have been growing faster than revenue. Factors like the COVID-19 pandemic and recent floods have significantly impacted revenue streams from user fees and charges, etc. Moreover, the state government's rate cap has constrained the growth of rates revenue, which hasn't really kept pace with rising costs. So that's challenge number one. Challenge number two, budget deficit. We talked about it, but the fact is that despite efforts to manage finances responsibly, the budget for 2024-25 does show an adjusted underlying deficit of $6.85 million. But this deficit also highlights the challenge of balancing the needs for essential infrastructure investments with maintaining a sustainable financial position. Challenge number three, community priorities versus budget constraints. Understanding what our community needs is important, but also tricky. It's challenging because our community is not homogeneous. We have different community groups. We have different priorities within the groups. Some might want better roads and cleaner streets, while others focus on projects that improve health and fairness for everyone. So to handle this challenge, we definitely need to rethink our main goals. Should we stick to basic services like managing roads, rates, and rubbish? Or should we take a bigger role in promoting health, fairness, and making sure that everybody feels included and no one is left behind? And which is a bigger role that aligns with the global goals to create a place where everyone is benefiting equally, and it follows the UN Sustainable Development Goals, basically. So these are big picture items. And these decisions are hard because they affect not just our budget right now, but also our community's future. We have to find a balance. It means choosing projects that help us now and also set us up for success later on. And to do this well, the council needs to engage well with the people in our community to understand what they think is most important. And by being transparent and by being open, we can decide better how to spend this money or how to manage our budget. In the end, it's about planning, working together with everyone involved and making choices that are that will make our that match our values of fairness, social justice, equity. So those are some of the thoughts around balancing community needs versus budget. The other challenge is infrastructure and service delivery. So while the council plans substantial investments in infrastructure through a capital works program totaling $69.97 million, there is a continuous need to renew and upgrade our existing assets. Managing these projects effectively and ensuring that they meet community expectations within budgetary limits is important, and it's challenging. Challenge number 5, as Councillor Dobson has also mentioned, long-term financial planning. Achieving and maintaining a true underlying surplus by 2026-2027, as outlined in our 10-year financial plan, it requires strategic actions and it requires adjustments over the coming years. This includes reviewing service levels, managing inflationary pressures on costs such as insurance premiums and utilities, and also navigating the increasing compulsory superannuation guarantee contributions. The budget document talks about all those challenges. Finally, equity and inclusion, as I said earlier, addressing diverse community needs and ensuring equity, fairness, and inclusion in service delivery and infrastructure developments, it remains a complex challenge. So the council must consider how its decisions contribute to creating a region that supports the well-being and livability of all residents and not just a few. So these challenges highlight the complexity of managing a municipal budget. And look, this is not only our challenge, these challenges, all councils across the board, they experience these challenges, but it's good to understand this perspective. So I also want to highlight that, just like other reports,
Sorry.
that's all.
Goes quick.
I fully endorse the budget, and thanks to the executive leadership team and the finance.
Very good. Thank you, Councillor Abdullah. Are there any councillors that would like to speak against the motion? Are there any councillors that would like to speak for the motion? Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Ms. Ali. A little bit from what I actually said during the releasing of the draft budget. Can I just say, firstly, acknowledging the finance team. They've gone ahead and prepared this particular budget very, very well, and has literally spent absolute months on this. They've been briefing us, they've been collating submissions, they've been going backwards and forwards, adjusting figures, sometimes at our bequest, more so than anything else, then readjusting them and providing further feedback, analysing them line by line item. We've done that as well. So it is a massive job, and congratulations to the Director of Corporate Services in Chris Teitzel, Claire Barnes, Manager of Finance and Rates, and of course their teams that belong to them, so acknowledgement where that's due. The process this year, for those that are sitting at home watching this or at work, or those that are in the gallery who don't know, this process has changed from what it had been previously. So I actually believe that this is for the better, the way that we've gone about putting the budget together. And that is that as most organisations or groups or clubs or committees or individuals or lobby groups, they already know what they want. So they've already come to, well out from the budget time, they've come to us letting us know what they want. So this year, prior to the release of when we brought out the draft, we asked for the public submissions up front, and then subsequent councillor considerations were given to those particular inclusions. So I think this is a much better and much smoother system. And we're able to provide that feedback, then put out a draft budget, get the feedback on that, and then the final recommendation, which we have before you today. Can I say too that hopefully this is a smoother process, but noting that, some of the submissions, sometimes that they've taken, 2 or 3 bites of the cherry to be able to get to this particular stage. And what I mean by that is that it may take 2 or 3 budgets before you get your particular project up. Point in question, one that I'm really happy to see in there is the new development of the Tatura Skate Park. I mean, it is a park that, if you go along there, it is dangerous. It is very dangerous for the families and for kids, and it's been pointed out in an audit that we had done on that. So, that had been sort of going around for a couple of years as to where that was going to go to. Finally, that's made it in there to at least get that particular ball rolling. Of course, a budget for us is, and I think Councillor Adams has said it a number of times, is a statement of financial priorities. I'm only one of 9, and we've all got our different priorities we would like to see in there. And I'm sure if you asked all 9 of us, we would take some items out and we'd put other items in. And I get a few nods from the other side there, which they agree with. So I think that sort of forms part of that as well. What I wanted to do is to actually highlight, since we've done the actual draft that's gone out there's been some items that have been placed into the budget. And I just want to the capital projects particularly, the Yanagorti shared path, Route 2, the design for that, the Shepparton Sports City enhancement package, the Shepparton Heritage Centre renewal, and the Princess Park concept design. In there are other things that have been changed as well in the budget, some minor changes to the rates and charges, etc. But that's all due to feedback that we received once we put that out to the public. But also, a budget is a working document that takes all year round. So if we were to bring out a budget in 3 months' time, for instance, it may look a little bit different, and there'll be other items added into it. But all in all, I think we've done a really good job, and particularly that as a cohort, this is our last budget together as these 9, and I think over that period of time, I think we have a big tick of approval in regards to that.
Thank you. Councillor Brophy, are there any councillors that would like to speak to the motion? Councillor Summer.
Thank you, Ms. Sally. I'm probably going to reiterate a lot of what Councillor Brophy just said. We're obviously on the same page there. The responsibility of taking money away from the community and deciding which services and projects to supply is not lost on us. Clearly, we've heard that. We've essentially spent all year on this, probably even longer, and we have made adjustments, as Councillor Brophy said. In fact, this is the longest budget process that I've had the privilege to oversee. I'm very happy to get a finished product in front of us finally. We can move forward now. And as stated, this will be the last budget we set as a group, which makes me a bit sad. And I'm largely comfortable with what's presented. As Councillor Brophy said, budgets are all about compromise, and it's unlikely any one of us is entirely comfortable with everything it contains. But I am proud earlier on in the term that we did set 2 consecutive years of 0 rate rises. That compounding argument could apply to anything, so I don't particularly take that on board. We did that to force operational efficiencies and to give the public some reprieve from the floods and the pandemic. However, we continue to spend more than we earn. So once again, we're looking at a modest rate rise of 2.75%. And perhaps this figure will reduce in later years under the expertise of our new CEO. And it would be absolutely impossible to discuss every topic of interest in 6 minutes. So I just want to touch on a couple of things. And one of those is waste, but I'll get to that in a minute. In general terms, very, very pleased to be delivering stage 1 of the Lenny Street drainage project in Mooroopna. They were hit so hard by floods and there was so much commentary that council should do better. Well, here we are doing better. I fully support the lighting for the Shepparton Skate Park. There's been some strong advocates there and it's in the budget and it's going to get done. And I'm also very proud to continue the playground shade sail installation, which is a capital project over 10 years to get all our playgrounds under cover for sun safety and more use. I do remain concerned about the extreme risk associated with progressing GV Link, in particular almost $10 million of borrowing that commits the next council to its delivery. But I'm only one of 9 around the table and do need to respect our democratic position, and I feel like I've been fully heard, so that's something I can absorb. And in terms of waste charges, I know that many people are not happy about paying an extra $32 for a purple bin that they may never use. So we've tried to mitigate the impact of that cost by reducing the cost of other bin sizes. So overall, there's a 0.13% decrease in curbside collection costs. The state government mandate to remove glass from landfill did not need to be in place until 2030. However, due to increasing EPA landfill fees that ratepayers pay for, council decided to go early. Other municipalities are likely watching us very closely before they implement their own means of reducing glass to landfill. I note that some shires have opted...
The glass is 2027, is that?
Oh, sorry, my mistake, yes, I take that back, 2027. Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Brophy. Other shires are implementing their own means of reducing glass to landfill. They have drop-off points instead of curbside bins, but it's unlikely to collect as much glass as having the convenience of a purple bin at home. I personally didn't expect such a huge community backlash in regards to the extra bin, and to the valued community members who aren't happy, I just say to please give it a go. We can't keep burying valuable stuff into the ground when it can be reused. We all need to do our bit. So if we all just give this a chance, in future we can review whether or not it's working. And for me personally, I'm more concerned about the impact of reduced red bin collection, which I did object to at the time, but that's a conversation for another day. And one missed opportunity in this budget that came about in submissions, this is just my opinion and I do understand it's a nice to have, it's not a need, but a small sum to commence design of a big pear or a big peach, which was presented to us by a community member, would be a significant tourist draw card. It's really a small amount of money in the scheme of things, even a drop in the ocean considering what we're collecting. And regardless of our status as a food bowl, a big pear or peach is a curiosity that would undoubtedly draw families and RV enthusiasts from across Australia to visit Greater Shepparton and boost our local economy, which is what we need. There's a multitude of stages needing to be addressed prior to any real action being taken on this project, but my concern is a lack of early support will mean reduced confidence from external stakeholders and the risk of this project disappearing. So I do foreshadow a motion that's exactly the same as what's presented, but includes a $23,000 allocation in the budget to commence drafting the design. At the very least, I do hope we could progress discussions through the year and perhaps find room in a quarter budget review for this purpose. And that's it. I generally support the budget.
Very good, thank you, councillor Summer. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? Councillor Adam.
Thank you, Mayor Sally. Geez, there's a lot to digest there, isn't there? Thank you, councillor Summer and all the other councillors. I won't go over all those same points because I'm pretty much on the same page with most of them, even the peach and the pear comment as well. I want to first like to thank all our small regional communities. You've got from Merch to Katandra West, Dookie to Undira, the smaller communities. They've advocated for a long time for a lot of their own projects. They've all got community organisations that exist within these communities. I've got to really congratulate them on their persistence, their passion when they present to us for their relative projects. However, as Councillor Brophy mentioned earlier on, and I keep banging on about this for many years, that our budget is simply a statement of financial priorities. Now, each community organisation feel that their priority is their own obvious projects, and that's understandable, absolutely. We've got to make a decision. We've got a finite resource to a degree. We've got to try and spend that for the greater good. That's our mission. But having said that, we can walk and chew gum at the same time in respect to, we've got a deficit of 6.9 million. That's an absolute operating deficit for the next 12 months. That was slightly higher. It was about 7, just over 7, roughly 12 months ago. That's coming down, so it's heading in the right direction, which is really good. We hope to achieve a break-even point in 26, 27, and beyond that, we'd like to be in a surplus. To do that, adding things, I think Councillor Summer said some of these things are a drop in the ocean. All these drops do add up and become a rather large pool if you keep adding them. That's not to say that they're not valid. They very much are, and I get that, I understand that. So the issue that councillors have is to try and navigate through all these different projects and wants from different organisational groups and prioritise them. It's as simple as that. My concern is I want that deficit to go down and head down and to be at a break-even point 26, 27. We've got to make some tough decisions. That doesn't mean we stop delivering, because we're not. There's plenty of different projects within this budget which will please many people. That's what our focus should be on, is keeping that deficit heading in the right direction, because when you spend X amount and you only receive amount less than that each year, well, that's a recipe for disaster, and it will happen, and it's happened with many other councils in our region. We don't want to be there. This budget, to me, is laying out the foundation not to be there. So hopefully we can sort of stick to its principles. Of course, there will be reviews over the next 12 months. Things do change. Different grant opportunities present themselves within the next 12 months. We'll no doubt take advantage of those. So overall, I think it's responsible. Yet we are still servicing the community needs as we should be doing, based on a priority type of schedule. So I think it's been said that I've got personal things that I would rather have in there and others out, but overall I think it's a really good compromise. It's well balanced, so fully support it.
Brilliant. Thank you, Councillor Adam. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? Councillor Spinks.
Thank you, yes. It is hard at this point. Everyone has said pretty much everything, but I think it's important to share our piece for what is the most important document we will approve in each year, and as our final one of our council term. I do think I just want to reiterate Councillor Summers' point about we do not take it for granted that we are taking people's money to deliver the services that they need, and ultimately the services that no one else will deliver. No one else is going to put the drainage in, no one else is going to provide the sporting facilities, whatever it might be. That is our role. That is local government's role, is to fill in those gaps to make sure that our communities on the ground have everything they need. And oftentimes local government is everything to everyone, or it tries to be, or people want us to be. And we know that that isn't true, but we still try to live up to it. We know that, you know, state government and federal government have their own roles to play, but so often that line gets blurred and state continues to push more responsibilities and financial costs onto local councils, and community expects local government to be answerable for all of these things because it's how it's impacting them in their neighbourhoods and their communities, and we understand that. And so to try to balance those community expectations and needs and what local government can actually deliver and what we can advocate for is a really challenging experience and a really challenging job to do. And I just want to acknowledge that. And I think as well, another of the challenges that I don't feel has been mentioned is what the future looks like for Greater Shepparton, both from the fact that Greater Shepparton is expanding. In the next however many years, there is predicted to be another 10,000 people within Greater Shepparton. Where are they going to live? How are they going to get around? Where are they going to go to school? Their kids going to go to school? Where will they work? This is the larger challenge for council, for local governments, is to manage not only what their communities look like today, but what they're going to look like in the future, and making sure that we plan thoughtfully for how we're going to develop as a region. We pride ourselves in a lot of ways on being small country towns, and even Shepparton, which is a regional city, we have our proper country towns, but we still have that country town feel, and we can still drive to work and it takes 5 minutes, and we have all of these wonderful benefits of living in the country. But I think there is a risk that if we don't think about that really thoughtfully of what that's going to look like in 5 years and 10 years and 20 years, we risk losing that. So when we design our budgets and we design our priorities, which I reiterate is everyone will have different versions of what those priorities will be, and I'm no exception, I think we have to make sure that we're not just considering it for our council term, but that we are looking to the future and what Greater Shepparton and its vision will look like. And I do think that this council has tried really hard to do that. I think we've done it really well. And another challenge, of course, is not only looking to the future, but it is the right now. And a really good example that I use is our sporting facilities and our sporting infrastructure. Essentially, the bursting growth of women in sport has made most of our sporting infrastructure outdated in a very short amount of time. And when you're suddenly looking at many assets and facilities all being outdated at the same time, how do you finance that in the middle of a crushing cost of living crisis and all of the other pressures that we're seeing? Not to mention in the last 4 years we had COVID and we had it's been a term. And trying to create a budget, trying to remain financially sustainable and trying to truly serve our communities is it's a real challenge, and I commend this council on taking that on head on. The council organisation we've pushed and we've pressured to make sure that we're heard, and they've really taken on that challenge to make sure that we meet the needs of our communities. And I know that we've done some really courageous but also difficult and challenging things along the way. But all of that has been a real privilege to be a part of. I think what I'm doing now is wrapping up in my budget speech, but we have not taken for granted that this budget is nearly $190 million, and we have that responsibility to deliver it responsibly and with compassion and with intelligence. And I think that we have all tried our hardest to do that over the 4 years, and that it is a compromise. But that is why we have 9 people around the table, because each of us represents something very different in our community, and that has been the strength of the diversity of our council. And I hope this budget reflects that, and that we can just serve our communities in the best way possible with the money that you trust us with.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Spinks. Are there any other councillors who would like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Sally. I'd like to thank those in the community, many of whom are dedicated volunteers of community groups who submitted their priorities and requests to help shape the budget. I'd also like to thank the council finance team for presenting this budget that all councillors have carefully considered. Dare I say, achieving a surplus has been front of mind for all of us whilst delivering essential services for our community. And just on Councillor Spinks's point, that the sport and recreation facilities fair access policy and action plan in today's agenda as well, that hopefully goes to address or expose the inefficient facilities that are currently being provided. So thank you, Mayor Sally.
Thank you, Councillor Watson. If there's no other councillors, I'll try and do my best. I could just easily echo the comments that have been made by my fellow councillors, but I think I need to expand a little bit more and highlight some of the real important points in the journey that we've been on, and sort of expanding on Councillor Spinks. Yeah, what a journey. floods times 2, hailstorms, obviously the COVID experience that we obviously inherited and walked into, to be where we are today, trending in a really positive direction, to hopefully be, as Councillor Adams said, 26, 27 time, at least breaking even or starting to get into that surplus area. So much work goes into developing the budget that you effectively never stop developing the budget. One of the best things is to prepare a budget. One of the hardest things is to endorse it, because you effectively start here and we end up sort of down here trying to have things in it that each of us can agree on. And I said to Councillor Spinks earlier today and throughout the week that I haven't endorsed the budget that I'm 100% supportive of. I don't think any of us have, but it's about the balance and the compromise and understanding that we've got a big community with big expectations and we're on a journey together, and a budget allows us to go on that journey with each other. I do want to obviously thank the amazing work that the finance team, obviously Chris, but I have to extend that further, that when we prepare the budget, all exec present to us, which is effectively feeding all the information to councillors that is presented by staff, managers, that goes to Chris, to Geraldine, obviously to Louise and Kelly, and to your extended team. We thank you for the effort that's gone into a very difficult time for a lot of us. And we're not immune to it. Obviously this council is not immune to anything that community members are facing with increased costs and being able to deliver projects. We can't just stop repairing roads and progressing things like skate parks, like GV Link, like Princess Park. Obviously we want to acknowledge that as well, that we finally are able to now acknowledge in our budget that we have some direction there. We have some direction on what we want to achieve and obviously resolve the situation down there. And then, other than the fact that I said, a really tough economic climate that we're in, and we're not out of it yet by any means. We're probably still getting to that peak, and what do the next 12 months look like? And I think we've found a really well balanced budget. I extend my congratulations to the exec and their staff, but I have to extend that as well to Fiona, who joined the team in mid to late January and has been able to get her head around. Either that, she's a really good disguise on getting her head around this budget and picking up and leading the conversation and understanding and bringing reality to climate that we're in, and understanding that we want to progress and be a council that is in surplus. We want to be a collaborative group of councillors that sets us apart from others that sit within regional Victoria. We are doing good things here. We'll continue to do good things here if we all work together, and that's what we've done over the course of the last 4 years. So well done. I'm super proud the way we've worked together in developing many budgets, this one here, and we will set up, which is the most important thing to do, is a strong foundation for whatever comes next. So well done. I congratulate you, and I'll hand over to closing comments.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Saley. It's all been covered, but I want to cover probably just finally one of them, in my opinion, one of the most exciting programs that's coming into Greater Shepparton, and that is GV Link. We're Australia's food bowl. We're a major manufacturing centre and a gateway to and from northern Victoria and beyond. Greater Shepparton plays an important role in the state and the national economy. Because of this, Greater Shepparton is competitively positioned to create a thriving transport and logistic hub in the heart of Victoria as the gateway to directly link products to markets nationally and globally. GV Link at Toolamba Road, Mooroopna is set to become the engine room for workforce, jobs and economic growth in the region. Well, I just get the next bit here, which is there. The site will become an industrial, wholesale, logistics and commercial precinct, providing a diverse range of business, employment, jobs, education and training opportunities. As a fit-for-purpose transport and logistics centre, GV Link has the potential to provide significant benefits for Victoria and the Goulburn Valley, including a more efficient supply chain for regional industries and commercial distributors, reduced congestion on roads into and around Melbourne, direct rail access to the Port of Melbourne, easier access to national and global markets and for regional businesses, and promotion of urban renewal. Also improving the competitiveness of regional exporters in the marketplace, and it will provide economic growth and prosperity. What has happened to progress in GV Link Stage 1? At the May Council meeting just gone, Council committed to the sale of land with Stage 1 of GV Link, and it's an important one. The sale of any of these lots requires the provision of utility services such as road and civil infrastructure and enabling infrastructure. The 2024-25 budget includes the allocation of funding for GV Link Stage 1 enabling infrastructure works. And for that, I congratulate not only the councillors for bringing this into the budget, but also for Geraldine Christo and her team for really working super hard in making sure that this comes to fruition. It's probably the biggest and most exciting capital works program that this area has seen for many, many years. Our Mayor and CEO went to other areas, have got a similar developments. They've seen the good and the bad and the ugly. And we're able to garner all that information and bring it in and hopefully have the best possible facility. So well done, and I think this will be the keystone of the budget going forward in 24-25.
Thank you, councillor Dobson. Councillors, we will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, we go over to 9.5 on page 30 of the agenda, S6, instrument of delegation by council to members of council staff. There is a recommendation. Can I have a councillor put that forward as a motion? Councillor Brophy.
Thank you, Mayor Saley. I put the following recommendation. Do you want me to read it all out or refer to that page?
Depends if you want to be efficient on that page.
I'll refer to the page 30 and the recommendation from points 1 to 4 that are listed there.
Thank you, councillor Brophy. Can I have a councillor second that motion? Councillor Adam.
Second the motion. Thank you, Mayor Saley.
Councillor Brophy, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, look, just in summary, that without an instrument of delegation, council work, and important council work, cannot be done. It's a legal movement, really, attributing responsibility and to allow the duties and functions to be performed. This instrument of delegation, I mean, we do this obviously with the CEO in a separate format, but also, some of that cannot be delegated by the CEO. So hence, 2 council officers, we put forward this one, and this approved recommendation sets out their particular delegated authority.
Thank you, councillor Brophy. Councillor Adam, would you like to speak to the motion?
Oh, yeah, just to quickly reiterate Councillor Brophy's comment. These delegations, some can be done by the CEO, obviously, in this particular instance. The powers conferred on the council under some legislative instruments cannot be delegated to the CEO and must be delegated by resolution of council directly to council officers. So that's what this agenda item is all about.
Councillor Adam, are there any councillors that would like to speak against the motion? Any councillors like to speak for the motion? No? Any closing comments, councillor Brophy?
No, thank you.
Councillors, we will now go to the vote. All those in favour? For Dobson. Opposed. Councillors, we go to page 33 of the agenda, item 9.6, S18, Instrument of Sub-Delegation Environment Protection Act 2017. There is a recommendation. Can I have a councillor put that forward as a motion, please? Councillor Spinks.
Thank you. I will move the motion as it is printed on page 33 of the agenda.
Second that motion. Councillor Summer. Councillor Spinks, would you like to speak to the motion?
Just briefly, as with the previous item, these are delegations which allow the efficient operation of council, and both the previous item and this one were prompted by a regular biannual review. We make sure that our lawyers check in to make sure that if there's any legislative changes, they are updated, but this particular one, the previous one had minor changes, no changes, so this is a stock standard review process. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, councillor Spinks. Councillor Summer, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, it's just housekeeping.
Any councillors like to speak against the motion? Any councillors like to speak for the motion? Any closing comments, councillor Spinks?
No, thank you.
Councillors, we will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Over to page 36 of the agenda, item 10.1, Sport and Recreation Facilities Fair Access Policy and Action Plan. There is a recommendation. Can I have councillor put that forward as a motion? Councillor Summer.
Thank you, Councillor Sally. I'll just find it. I'd like to move that the council, 1, adopt the sport and recreation facilities fair access policy as attached, and 2, note the associated sports and recreation facilities fair access policy action plan as attached.
Councillor Summer. Can I have a councillor second that motion? Councillor Latson.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Summer, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Sally. It seems that ever since the Matildas shot to stardom across Australia, and obviously before that, Spotlight has been on the state of female-friendly sporting facilities and gender-based systems biases that can act as barriers to girls in sport. For as long as male-only sports are prioritised over women, will continue to fall short of their full potential. So women are proving to be popular and strong sporting competitors, but without fair access to facilities and opportunities, they will remain at a disadvantage. And arguably, we're only now seeing the potential of women's sports, very arguably, which is even more important in regional or rural areas for social networks and recreation. It's a bit of a shame that this policy seemingly only became a priority due to a looming deadline, because as of July 1st, councils without a standing policy will be ineligible for sports infrastructure funding under the Victorian Gender Equality Act 2020. So what we've got may be the bare bones of a policy, but it is a start and it will improve and evolve as time goes on, just like women in sports. I might just read out the principles that were set by state government, because I find that they're very, very good. There's 6 of them there. One is that community sports facilities and environments are genuinely welcoming, safe and inclusive. 2, women and girls can fully participate in all aspects of community sport and active recreation, including as a player, coach, administrator, official, volunteer and spectator. 3, women and girls will have equitable access to and use of community sports facilities. A, of the highest quality available and most convenient. B, at the best and most popular competition and training times and locations. C, to support existing and new participation opportunities and a variety of sports. And number 4, women and girls should be equitably represented in leadership and governance roles. Number 5, encourage and support all user groups who access and use community sports facilities to understand, adopt and implement gender equitable access and use practices. Finally, number 6, prioritise access, use and support all user groups who demonstrate an ongoing commitment to gender equitable access and use of allocated community sports facilities. So this policy and women in general are coming from a long way back in sports, and I personally cannot wait to see what we achieve under this. So to quote Randy Bachman, we ain't seen nothing yet.
Thank you, Councillor Summer. Councillor Latson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Sally. I fully endorse Councillor Summers' comments, and just like to add that with the current state of play, excuse the pun, there's lots of sporting clubs, many netball teams that are just starving, crying out for facilities that are up to standard of football clubs or other men's participated sports. So bringing it in line, getting it up to a world standard, coming into the Olympics, you know, you want to encourage it. And off the back of the Matildas, as Councillor Summers said, you just want to get around all participation, you know, and just sport for all. Thank you, Mayor Sally.
Thank you, Councillor Latson. Are there any councillors that would like to speak against the motion? Any councillors like to speak for the motion? Councillor Spinks.
Thank you. I wholeheartedly support this policy. Sport, as we all know, has major benefits for social, mental and physical health across all of our communities. Having more people accessing sport and feeling safe and welcome within sporting codes is only going to benefit our communities. So often we see that young girls start in the very low levels of sports, but then are edged out as they don't have the older groups to participate in, and they lose that connection to sport. This policy, and I guess the direction of state government as well, it really aligns our more regional approach to making sports inclusive, and it's every sport that you can think of off the top of your head, and then it's every other sport as well that isn't even mentioned. It's sport goes across so many different codes in our region, and we're so lucky to have so many different codes. But I think that for me, the real strength of this policy is that as council and as the owner of the assets, we have a responsibility to provide assets that are equitable and inclusive, but it's also about working with those who utilise those assets to make sure we can educate and support them and their groups, which are often volunteers, to be able to go through the education and the behaviour change needed to, it's all well and good to say, everyone's going to use the oval equally, but it's another thing for actually the scheduling to be designed that way. So making sure that we're all on this journey together. And I think there is, you know, credit where credit's due. A lot of our sporting codes are already on this path, and they are doing a lot of work on their own backs to try to be more welcoming and inclusive. But everybody trying to do it on their own individually is a really difficult task. I hope that this policy will allow everyone to move forward together and to be able to access the supports that almost fast track this change in the way that women and girls are able to access sport. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Councillor Spinks. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? Councillor Adam.
Thank you, Mayor Sally. I will be very brief. I think point 2 is very important as well, to note the associated sports and recreational facilities fair access policy action plan is attached. It's all very well having a policy. There's policies that sit on shelves and people refer to them very sparsely, but this has got an associated action plan. So it's not a stationary document. It's actually active, and we will act upon it and to achieve these outcomes. So that's just thought I'd note that.
Very good, thank you, Councillor Adam. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? Councillor Abdullah.
Thank you. I just want to highlight a little bit of sort of technical aspect of this report and other reports that we have reviewed and we review in our agenda, in our meetings. I'm very glad to see that like all other reports, we do assess these reports and the recommendations based on its legal implications, based on its sustainability impacts and social impacts, all of that. Recently, we have also introduced, because of the legislative requirements, the gender impact assessment or to review a policy or a report from the lens of gender impact. And I think this is, we are again in a very sort of early stages of making those gender impact assessments on all our policies and plans. So most of the times what I have seen, and we have been having this discussion, that we are still in the very early stages. We are not really doing gender impact assessments of many of our policies to the extent that is satisfactory, to the extent that it should be done. But I get it that we are in the process of capacity building, and maybe it's a matter of resources not available to do that gender impact assessment. So we have just passed our budget for 2023, 2024, 2025, and I was going to say that of course, I ran out of time, that for that budget report also, there was nothing in the gender impact assessment.
We got about
so I'm very happy.
We've got 4 minutes now.
Yes, I've got 4 minutes. So I have to convey this message that I'm very pleased to see that for this policy, gender impact assessment section, it's in front of us, it's in the report, it was completed and it was conducted. And perhaps because it was a very straightforward thing. This policy is all about gender equality and making sure that our sporting infrastructure complies with the gender equality legislation and sort of strengthens gender equalities across the community facilities. So it was perhaps an easier thing to do, but I really hope, and it's like for the next council also, I would hope that they maintain a focus on that and make sure that the policies and programs that this council is approving, they do go through a gender impact assessment, because it's a big issue. We haven't achieved that yet. Let's be very frank about it. And so for everything that we are doing, that lens needs to be applied. So I'm happy on this occasion for this particular policy, but I feel that council has to do a lot of work in this space. With that, I conclude, and I'm happy to support this policy.
Thank you, Councillor Abdullah. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? Councillor Brophy.
Thank you, Mayor Saley. I'd just like to obviously endorse the fair access policy, and I think fair access, could even go even further, I think, in some areas too. I take Councillor Spinks's point that a lot of clubs and organisations and associations are already well onto it and have really progressed enormously in recent years. Others have been left behind, and they certainly need to catch up. I mean, I think of the sports that I certainly play and clubs that I'm associated with, or associations, tennis, golf, bowls, cycling, or even running clubs, and that for them, I've seen that they've matched it in every aspect that I can see in terms of equality and that. But there's obviously other sports that haven't. And I think if I think back, particularly around COVID, prior to COVID, AFL women it was going gangbusters. They could not find enough ovals for them to play on. The participation rate with girls and women playing football was huge. Then we had COVID, and then the men came back, but the women participation dropped by about 40%. And so you sort of question, why did that actually happen? Why did that participation drop off in there? So there's obviously lots of more questions in regards to this, and it's not just about facilities, it's about a number of things right across the board, and also access and inclusion, for those with disabilities and that, to be able to make sure that they're included for both genders, to be able to get onto courts, onto ovals and other sporting facilities. So certainly endorse this policy, and I look forward to see how the action plan actually plays out.
Very good. Thank you, Councillor Brophy. Is there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? Any closing comments, Councillor Summer?
No, thank you.
Very good, councillors. We will now go to vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, we go over to page 41 of the agenda, item 11.1, designation of confidentiality of information report. The following report and associated attachment have confidential under Governance Rule 108 and in accordance with the definition of confidential information in the Local Government Act 2020 in brackets the Act. Dot point, Chief Executive Officer, key performance indicators July 2024 to June 2025. These documents contain information which is consistent with the Local Government Act 2020 definition of personal information, being information which, if released, would result in the unreasonable disclosure of information about any person or affairs. Item 11.2, close of meeting to members of the public. Councillors, there is a recommendation. Can I have someone put that forward as a motion? Councillor Spinks.
Thank you. I will move that pursuant to section 66(1) of the Local Government Act 2020, resolve that the council meeting be closed to members of the public for consideration of the following confidential item: Chief Executive Officer, key performance indicators July 2024 to June 2025.
Can I have a councillor second that motion, please? Councillor.
Second the motion. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors in favour? Motion carried. Thank you. Sorry, members of the gallery, if we and sealing nil received. Councillors, over the page to page 42 of the agenda, item 13.1, councillor activities for May 2024. There is a recommendation. Can I have the councillor put that forward as a motion? Councillor Latson.
Thank you, Mayor Sally. I'd like to move the recommendation on page 42 of the agenda, that the council receive and note the summary of the councillors' community interactions and informal meetings of councillors.
Thank you, Councillor Latson. Can I have a councillor second that motion, please? Councillor Brophy.
Second that motion.
Councillor Latson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Sally. I just take you on the Laddo's deep dive. As much as it is a privilege to be invited to a wide breadth of community events, I'd like to applaud the commitment of fellow councillor, Councillor Brophy, for his commitment as a councillor to attending an outstanding 75% of councillor events this past month, scheduling and attending a whopping 15 out of 20 events around his personal and work life. Well done, Councillor Brophy.
Councillor Brophy. Very good. Is that it, Councillor Latson?
Thank you, Mayor Sally.
Councillor Brophy, would you like to speak to the motion?
I appreciate that. Thank you very much, Councillor Latson, the acknowledgement. There were a couple of items that I just did want to point out to the community as well. And one in particular, which most councillors did get along to, was the Shepparton Heritage Centre, the Monash Park panel reveal. The panels, if you haven't gone along to it to Monash Park, please do yourself a favour and get down there and have a look. You know, there's depictions of the Monash Bridge, the river redirection, the early town centre, the pastoral stations, industries, wharf and Furphy. Obviously, these are all colonial depictions, you know, from when Shepparton was established with white settlement, but certainly that tells a pathway and a bit of a story in and around that. So please, over and get down to that one. Another one that most councillors were able to attend to was the 15th Annual Greater Shepparton Volunteer Recognition Awards. Everyone that was nominated, regardless of whether they won or not, you know, we thank so much. We rely on you, we need you, and we survive because of you. And so thank you very much to all the volunteers. So even if you were nominated, in our eyes, you were certainly winners on the night. The Vesak Day celebration, which is the Buddhist Day of celebration and reflection. How magnificent to have that in the Queen's Gardens. You've got the autumn leaves with the lanterns lit, and it adds to the colour and harmony of the event. It's just absolutely magnificent if you can get along to that year by year. And the last one I wanted to mention was certainly the Greater Shepparton Secondary College School Assembly Africa Day celebrations. And that sort of leads into, for a number of people, we've just concluded Refugee Week as well. And can I say the schools in particular, the schools do it so well. You know, cultural understanding starts with education. And I know that Greater Shepparton Secondary College, Notre Dame College and other colleges have done some magnificent depictions and videos in regards to that. And really, for us here in the Golden Valley, multiculturalism is the tapestry of life here.
Very good. Thank you, Councillor Brophy. Are there any councillors that would like to speak against the motion? Any councillors like to speak for the motion? Councillor Adam.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Sally. Obviously, there's a great variety of different community events that most councillors got to, some didn't. I just want to mention one which is really not a community event at all. It was the meeting of the local government inspectorate. Sometimes these sort of meetings get overlooked, but it was very interesting. The few of us that were there, I think there was 2 or 3 or 4. Yeah, great insight into how other councils operate, what the focus of the inspectorate is. It's sometimes good to get a bit of a feed and a read of what's happening around or Victoria, and I found it very informative and very helpful, and I'd just encourage more councils, if they could in the future, to get involved in that type of meeting, because it's really sets a good groundwork for the way we operate as a council and as individual councillors.
Councillor Adam. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? No. Councillor Latson, any closing comments?
No, thank you, Mayor Sally.
We'll now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried unopposed. Over to page 47 of the agenda, item 14, notice of motion, amendment or rescission to receive. Item 15, urgent business not included on the agenda. Council has any urgent business arisen since finalisation of the agenda? No. Item 16, close of meeting, which we'll do now at 4:33 p.m. Well done, guys. Good work.
Thank you.
Our final budget, there you go.
Well done, everyone.